Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order. And their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number 1, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, it's Gregory from the District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're back. It's been a few weeks. Took some time off, had some weddings to go to. Devin just got married a couple weeks ago, so we had to go up there for that in North Carolina. Great time spending some time with GW Eagles baseball coach Mike Pritchett, a good friend and brother of ours. If you have not seen it yet, go back to our YouTube page, Facebook, or Twitter. Check out our All Access with GW Baseball. It was a really good time, and I think it went pretty well. We have a lot of good stuff coming up for you guys. We had some interviews last week, baseball and basketball. So kind of still talking some basketball here. If you saw us on Twitter, we've been talking about our prospects for 2025. We're moving on to our 2026. So we've got a lot of DMs. We've got a lot of mentions on Twitter for kids in the 2026 class. So we'll get on that as soon as possible. And I'm trying to get Devin to do something with football too. So hopefully Devin will do some recruiting stuff for football. Tonight, we have two good interviews with some high school baseball coaches, two great baseball minds and coaches in the state of Virginia. We could have talked to these guys for hours. So we did let them off the hook a little bit. But we have Coach Rodney Spradlin, state champion at William Byrd, 20 years of experience, has been a scout with the MLB for a long time. Won a state championship there at William Byrd back in the 90s. Great interview, and he's currently the head coach at North Cross for baseball. So that'll be our first episode, our first interview. And then after that, we have Coach Eric Altizer there at Auburn High School. Has won 4 state championships, career record of I think 303 and 123. So lots of wins there in 2 stints. 3-time state coach of the year, and both of these guys have been inducted to the Salem and Roanoke Hall of Fame for baseball. Coach Spradlin was in 2018, and Altizer was there in 2022. So yeah, lots of experience. 2 great coaches who know ball. Pause. So give it a listen. Our first interview is with Coach Spradlin, who's a family member. So it was a very good time to spend some time with him and talk some baseball. And then after that, we'll have Coach Eric Altizer. Thank you guys. All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're back with another episode tonight. It's a family affair tonight. A family affair. We have Coach Rodney Spradlin from the North Cross Raiders. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, can I call you George, or is it Rodney?
You better call me Rodney.
Well, Rodney, thank you for coming on. We do appreciate it. I know we had some technical difficulties, but everything's good to go now. So my first question to every coach or every visitor we have on here is I want to know more about your background and kind of get to know you a little bit. I know you're from Roanoke, you played at William Byrd, you played with college ball too, but kind of tell us how you got into baseball and kind of like your beginnings there.
Hold on, Rodney. Rodney, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Gregory, does Rodney look a year older than me? I just wanted to find out.
He looks like a lot younger than you.
I'm sorry.
It's been a long day. I feel pretty old today, but usually I feel pretty young. I've done camp this morning, mowed the yard, and threw BP to high school kids this afternoon. So it's been a long day. So
jeez. But yeah, so tell us about. I guess you were a pitcher in high school, right? At William Byrd,
I was.
and
Yep.
then you played at Carson Newman as well.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, what got you started into baseball? Like as a kid, like what was the reasoning? What was baseball your number one sport or your favorite sport?
I mean, I played them all when I was younger. I played them all up until high school, and then in high school I just played basketball and baseball. Probably one of my biggest regrets. I wish I would have played football. I never got to run out Friday night, but I knew I probably had a chance to play baseball in college, and so it's basically what I did, and it's been very good to me. I mean, that's what I do for a living now, so it's a great game. I love teaching it to young kids. I love seeing them succeed. So we'll continue to do it as long as we can.
When you're in high school, you're playing there at William Byrd. I mean, did you? I guess like maybe junior, senior. Did you guys start seeing some looks from colleges or get some offers from colleges, and how that whole recruiting process worked for you?
Well, that was a long time ago, but I guess the reason I went to Carson, our Legion team used to go down there and play. They had a big Legion tournament every year, and I threw in front of their coaches, and I think I threw 5 perfect innings. Then I walked a kid, and I picked him off the next pitch. And my coach says, "Why'd you walk him?" I said, "I just wanted to show him a pickoff."
Right. There we go.
But then, Carson was very good to me. We were very good. It didn't take me long to figure out. I was pretty good around here. But once I got there on campus and saw some of the dudes that I played with, it didn't take me long to figure out I probably wasn't going to play at the next level. So let's do what we can do here, and let's find another way to stay in the game. So, I guess paying attention to the game and coaching became that part. So
high school, Rodney Spradlin, what is he hitting on the gun there? Fastball, what was your favorite pitch?
I was probably in college, probably only 83 to 85, and I had to drop down, throw submarine just to be able to get people out. So
gotcha. A lot of off-speed stuff?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to throw from every angle I could, make that thing move as much as I could. So
after college, you kind of get into more of a coaching role. You go back to William Byrd. Mm-hmm. What was the decision to get into coaching, or did someone kind of lead you to that role?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically when I got back from school, I wanted to stay in the game, but I knew I wasn't going to play anymore. So I started helping out at William Byrd. And then my high school coach decided that he had 2 young daughters. He wanted to get out of it. And I took the job at a young age of probably, that was 1992. I was probably 25 years old when I got the head coaching job at Byrd. Wow. I had been there for a couple of years helping, but I got the job at 25, I think.
And I think you were the head coach for 5 seasons.
That's 5 correct. Years. Yep.
And in those 5 years, you won 94 games, I believe, and 22 losses. So a pretty good win-loss percentage there.
Hey, had a lot of great players.
There we go. So tell us about 1997. What was so special about that year?
We had great pitching. We played great defense. We didn't hit very well, but we could get a bunt down. If a ball was in the dirt, we were moving up. We hit and run a lot. But I would bunt in the top of the first to try to score 1 run because we had a pretty good chance of winning with a couple of guys we had on the mound. So,
wow, okay.
I have the same thing right now. So it's pretty similar situations.
Like that. So did you know that team had a chance to win it all that year?
Yeah, the year before we got beat in the state semifinals at Virginia High, and I had just about all of them coming back. And I was going to retire after that year. They begged me in the parking lot at 2:30 in the morning when we got back to stay another year, and they promised me they'd win it. So
all of that. Well, the thing I had to show you, I told you about this earlier. You've probably seen this. You might have it in your office right now, but
oh yeah,
Maryland still has the cereal here, and I was looking at this. I was like, this is unbelievable, and it has like the team photo here.
It has all the scores on the side. And
it does. Yep. I try to cross off the win over Chatham in the regionals and win in the state semifinals too, but it is what it is.
As I told you the other day when we were in Danville, last time I was there, I was getting on the bus with a dub. They were a great team though. They were really, really good. Really good.
Was there any games that year that really stood out for you besides the state championship, obviously? But was there any games that kind of were something that you remember?
Yeah, I mean the Chatham game in the semifinals was probably one of the biggest and most. We were down going into the bottom of the 7th with 2 outs, and my 9-hole guy hit a home run.
Oh wow!
Yep, and I can remember the players' names. I can remember everything. They had a really good pitcher named Ken Brumfield, and he had thrown a gem They had a catcher named Jerome Rigney. He had hit a home run in the 6th inning to put them up. And I had a really good left-hander. He came up again in the 8th with first base open, and we were going to put him on. And I looked out there, and my pitcher said no. And he said 3 fastballs, and he threw 3 fastballs by him. We came in and scored the ball in the 8th. My former head coach was my bench coach that year, and he says, you got to put him on. You got to put him on. And I said, I trust what he says. And he threw 3 fastballs by him.
Is that good morning, good afternoon, good night? Is that what it is?
That was it. That was what it was.
Gotcha.
Was there any worry? I think if it's correct, you lost to Salem in the district championship, which didn't matter because I guess the top 2 teams make it anyways to this, region semifinals or region quarterfinals. Was there any worry after you lost that game, or was it, hey, moving on?
Nah, we won 12 of the last 13 that year.
Man,
won 12 of the last 13. That was the one loss. So and Salem was our biggest rival because they were back then it was our district. And I think we went 2-2 against them that year. And before that, my 4.5 years before that, we were 22-0 against them.
Wow. Jeez.
Yep.
Well, you win a state championship. You leave Bird. How do you get into, or what's your next plan after that? I guess you get into some scouting and stuff like that. How does that work out?
I did some associate scouting with the Royals. I've done the Commonwealth Games. This will be my 33rd year this year. So I was doing that. And, my daughter was 5 years old. I was missing a bunch of stuff. And so I started coaching her. And then Gary came along. I started coaching him. And then I got back in when he started playing at Bird because my former players were coaching there. So I helped out a little bit. And, when he left and went to school to play, I wanted to go watch him play. So,
was there part of you that wanted to step back into that head coaching role while you're watching him play there?
Nah, not really. I didn't want all the headaches that come with being a head coach. I like just going to practice every day, hitting fungo, throwing BP, and there's a lot of headaches that come with being a head coach too.
So, as a scout, for the Royals, and I think you were at the Blue Jays as well.
Yep.
Where are you traveling to? Is this just wherever they send you to? And
I basically am an associate scout there as an area guy in the area. I basically just, hey, I saw this kid. What do you think? My guy now with the Blue Jays is very good. He say, hey, I want you to go see this kid and tell me what you think. There's been a few instances in the last couple of years when we've done that. So, and I think he respects my opinion. And, he'll say, I think the same thing, or I don't think he's that good, So it's a good situation. Good situation.
Obviously, it kind of differs from pitcher to pitcher or batter to batter or whatever it might be, fielder. But what are you kind of looking for when you kind of see these kids? Are you looking for speed? You're looking for just like their
It depends on what position they are. If they're playing in the outfield, they got to be able to run a little bit. If they're playing on the corner, they got to be able to hit with some power. If they're a pitcher, I know the importance of velocity. That's not the number one thing for me, but, I know the importance of that. Physical, you got to see what they look like. You can tell which ones are those guys. Working with the baseball factory now, I'll get events we go to. Hey, there's a guy coming in who's a potential Under Armour All-American guy, and you can tell which one he is when they walk in. Just the way they handle themselves, what they look like, the physicality.
Have you seen, you've been in baseball for over 30 years. Have you seen a difference, or maybe how kids used to look back in the day to they do now? Or are they kind of similar to how you've seen them?
There's a lot more avenues for them to get bigger, stronger, and do all that now. But it's still back in the days, dudes were pretty athletic. I made a list over the last 33 years, all the guys that I have seen in the Commonwealth Games. And I'm looking back to the very first year I did it was some pretty physical guys. Anthony Poindexter, who played at Virginia, was All-American, coaches at Penn State football now. Ryan Gilliland, who coaches at Jefferson Forest, who's in UVA's Baseball Hall of Fame. They're pretty physical guys. Jimmy Gobble pitched in the big leagues. He was 6'4", 6'5". There's pretty good dudes, pretty athletic guys.
What? Maybe you can weigh on this too. Has the fastball just gotten? What's the rise in the speed on the fastball? It seems like everybody's throwing 100 miles an hour nowadays. Years ago.
A lot of that is the training. A lot of that is the physicality. A lot of that, the training part, that's what they teach people to do, throw hard.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest concern is there's a lot of guys that throw hard, but they can't throw strikes.
Yeah.
So, velocity is very important. That's the first thing my son said when he went to college. He wasn't a hard thrower, but he says, we got guys that throw 94 at the Division II level, but he said they have no idea where it's going, Dad. So, but
All right, let me break up this family wad here, okay? All right, Gregory's being so nice about everything. So I have a couple of questions.
sure.
First and foremost, there was a actual question that come up to both you and I. I don't think Gregory was in on this on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, there's a hitter who was playing for the Dodgers,
Yep.
who is now playing for, I think, the Cubs,
Yep.
who I think played at North Carolina,
Yep.
who I think is really tearing it up this year. That was the question presented to us over the weekend, Gregory, by my father.
Mm-hmm.
And we were absolutely stumped because I could not think of one North Carolina player that was in the MLB right now, and it just blew my mind. So I think Monday night the answer was revealed through a text message from him. And
I got a call Sunday on the way home.
Oh,
so
really?
you know who it is then?
Yeah.
It's Michael Bush. Yeah.
Yeah, he called me on the way home.
Oh, he did call you on the way home?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it just absolutely blew. I mean, I was just stumped. I could not think of anybody because he doesn't always play first base, but at the same time. So anyway, all right. So I'm going to get into this thing now.
Okay.
All right. So as a scout, and you said associate scout, so maybe I'm going to overstep my boundaries just a hair here, but how many football games or how many basketball games have you gone to kind of follow up with some of these guys? And the only reason why I asked that, kind of tongue in cheek, facetiously, is because I guess when Virginia won the beat Vanderbilt for the national championship, I think they went they played each other back-to-back years. What was that, 12, 13, 14, 15, somewhere like that?
Yep, 14, 15. I was there for both of them.
Okay. So in the process, ESPN took all 8 of the coaches that were there at the World Series and put them out in the outfield and did the question Q&A session out there.
Yep.
And the biggest question was this: do you prefer a baseball player, and meaning basically 24/7 year-round baseball player, or do you prefer the athlete? And where the baseball player, of course, thrives, but not only does he thrive in baseball, but he's also thriving as a quarterback in the 2-minute drill. He's also thriving as a point guard or whatever, center or forward at the foul line with 2 seconds left on the clock and you're down by 1 at the free throw line. So to the T, each coach, and I was very, very surprised that they all agreed that they want the athlete. They're going to find that athlete, and they want to know how this kid reacts in all situations and not in just a baseball situation. So I was just going to kind of get your feel for that.
Most definitely. I mean, I know Virginia guys said that because I've talked to them before about that. We like guys that played multiple sports. We want them to learn how to compete. You learn how to compete differently on a basketball floor. You learn how to compete differently on the football field. And there's different ways to compete on the baseball field. But if you learn how to compete, that makes you a much better player. Plus you save bullets in those arms. I mean, so many guys have TJ now, and a lot of it is because they play all the time, I mean, it's very important to throw. I have one now at Norcross. He just committed to VCU. I think he has a chance possibly to get drafted, but he is a football player. He's very good. He's a good basketball player, plays on a good team, and he plays baseball. He plays baseball in the summertime. But he is a competitor because he's played all those other sports. And I've told him, I said, you're 92, 93 now. Once you stop playing those other 2 sports, your velocity is going to go up because you will be training just to pitch. And I said, I think you're going to be a mid-90s guy eventually someday. So,
well, I know we talked about this a little bit on Sunday, and a lot of there'll be several people that listen that probably will not agree with my total feeling about this, but I guess I'm not an analytics guy. I'm not. And I refuse to go with analytics. And I kind of despise watching a baseball game now on television and listen to those guys, talking the whole time. And I guess, and if I hit a nerve, I apologize, but I'm going to have to throw this out there. But, you hear you listen to the game and here you go. Guy hits a home run. Well, you can't talk about how, it's not just the feet. It's not 477 feet as as Judge hit in Kansas City the other night, almost hit it out of the baseball stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, oh, he hit the launch angle of,
Yep.
he hit the exit velocity of, it just, and then the other, I think back a couple years ago when we were watching I think it was the Dodgers and the Padres in the playoffs, and you're gonna know the pitcher's name, and I can't think of it right this second, but all of a sudden this guy's cheating in the playoffs, or he's doing something totally off key here because his spin rate had gone up a couple of spins or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget who it was. He was a really good pitcher. I don't hear much out of him now, but anyway, I'm just trying to find out, why did we go through all this? I mean, what is this? What I've even heard of kids getting scholarships unseen, but spin rate got them a scholarship. So if you could go into that a little bit, I just don't understand.
I mean, I think there is a place for that in the game, but it cannot be the only thing. Okay. And I can tell you some good instances. I mean, I worked for Perfect Games technical part for a little bit. We used to go to their events and set up the stuff. I mean, the kids are chasing exit velocity, they're chasing spin rate, they're chasing velo. Okay. Those are important, but it's not the end all be all. Okay. There's a lot of guys that throw 95 with high spin rates that can't throw strikes or can't compete. When they start getting hit, they don't compete. I have buddies that I work with all the time at Baseball Factory that played Major League Baseball, that coach in professional baseball now. And one instance was, the guy said, hey, I was a pitcher for 16 years in the big leagues. When our bullpen was taxed, our job was to go out there and gut it out and save the bullpen. But now they get a call in the 6th inning from the press box, hey, his spin rate went down. Let's get him out of there. Well, the guy's getting outs. Let's just leave him in there and save our bullpen. No, his spin rate's down. We need to get him out of there. So stuff like that's not the part that I like, but there are certain things that I like. I mean, if you can see a guy's breaking ball and see the spin rate's really high, then it's going to be tough to hit because of the depth of the breaking ball and stuff like that. There are things that work in that, but it can't be the end all be all. And a lot of times it is for people.
I watched a World Series, I guess 2 years ago, Texas and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
We get to what everybody was calling the bullpen game. The bullpen game.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the bullpen game used to be the guy that was your 5th or 6th starter who gave you 3 or 4 innings as much as he had, and then you turned it over to the bullpen. Today's bullpen game is you start with the bullpen and everybody throws an inning. And to me, and I know I'm probably going to show a little bit of favoritism here because he's a Danville kid. Joe starts that World Series game,
Yep.
throws a perfect first inning, he's done. I mean,
Yep.
come on, man. I mean, and from what I understood for the whole thing was, and I can't not think of this coach's name. Is it Trevor? Is it Tyler? It begins with a T, doesn't it? I can't remember. Torrey. I can't remember the
Torrey
Arizona.
Lavella?
Yeah. So Torrey has this analytics thing going, whereas he's going to throw somebody different until, and I don't know. I sit there and it just tears me apart to see something like that. And then here I am 30 minutes later, I'm watching a Netflix series, as we talked about the other day, about Nolan Ryan. And, basically if the coach come out there to take him out of the game, he was kicking him square in the tail and telling him to go back to the dugout. I'll finish this up. So
Yep.
it's hard for me because I'm just like that. I'm kind of the old school guy. I just can't find the new school avenue or whatever. And even watching Gregory play, during the early 2000s, I still can't translate to what's going on now. And it's hard for me. I don't know. I like the old down and dirty kind of guy. It's kind of me. Hey, I don't mind telling you this. I'm a huge Red Sox guy. I can't stand to see them trying to steal bases now. I like to see them hit the ball off the wall and get singles at a time. It's hurt. It hurts.
I'm old school too, but there's a place for some of in the game. But the bullpen game, if a guy's getting outs, leave him out there. That's my feeling. So, but I think guys have, a lot of guys. Some of the guys in the old days were good, even when they didn't have their good stuff, because they had the heart and they knew how to pitch, But Now, if that spin rate drops or velocity drops, they're getting them out of there because they got so many guys in the bull. And there's a lot of people that sit up in those press boxes and stuff that make a lot of money looking at those computers and those numbers. A lot of it.
So did Billy Ball start all this or what? I mean, can you like actually go back to that and kind of translate that, when they started this thing that this is where this all began?
That I guess you could say that probably started at a different level, but I mean it's much different level now. Much different level. So.
Well, I want to ask about Norcross. So, I mean, you've been doing the scouting thing, baseball factory. You've been doing a lot of different things throughout the past few summers or last 20 years, 30 years. Was there an itch to get back into coaching, and what was the process of becoming the coach there?
Yeah, I mean, springtime is very slow for us at the baseball factory because kids are playing high school baseball. So, I would spend my springs. I would go watch practice every day somewhere in Roanoke. I would go see every team. Now, part of that is my job with the Commonwealth Games. I'm trying to find the best players to bring to Lynchburg in July so the college coaches can see them. But I would just go sit in the outfield, sit in my car, and watch people practice. And it behooves me how some people run a practice. I mean, I'm very meticulous. I am. It is written up there, the time from this time to this time. My guys are wearing pants. They're wearing matching shirts. I mean, that's just the way I am. And I would go watch some, and I said, I cannot believe this is what they look like. But my neighbor across the street was the athletic director at Norcross, and he knows what I do for a living. He came across one day and said, I'm looking for a baseball coach. You know anybody be interested? I said, maybe I am. And he said, there's no chance. And I said, yeah. I said, I'll be glad to talk to you. He said, can you come in tomorrow at 9? I went in the next day at 9 o'clock. I had the job by probably 9:10, 9:15. I didn't know that I had it by then, but I leave and I go to Omaha. This is the first time in 15 years I hadn't been to Omaha. We usually do a camp there. Then I go straight to the Cape. Well, I'm in the Cape, and I get a phone call one morning from Billy Wagner. Well, I'm going to answer it, And he said, congratulations. And I said, what? And he said, you got the job at Norcross. I said, how do you know? He said, I know. You got the job at Norcross. He said, all he needs, they'll be pretty good if you got some pretty good players. But then they called me and said I figured I probably had it, but it's a different situation. But, they have a very nice facility. They've got some really nice players. So, we'll see. Year one was pretty good. We won 15 games. They've got beaten state quarterfinals, and everybody's back. So we'll see what happens in year two.
When you took over, did you talk to, or how much conversation did you have with Coach Lawrence, who I think had been there for like 30 years and
37 years, and he's still there. He was the maintenance guy. He's going to be my new athletic director. My athletic director left and took a new job, so Eric's going to be my new. I did meet with him. So when I met with my AD, I met with the headmaster, and their first questions were, "Why do you want to do this?" They looked at my resume. I said, I don't have much to do in the spring. It'd be pretty interesting to come back and do it again. Then I met with some players. And, I don't know if I should be talking about this on this thing, but I'm pretty old school hardcore. Okay. I mean, I'm not an easy coach to play for. And I just told them that's the way I am. I'm a perfectionist. I am going to be all over you. And, that's just the way I am. If that's what you want, then I'll be glad to do it. If not, then you probably need to tell them to find somebody else. And they were all, that's what we need. I said, okay. That's, watch what you wish for. But and then I met with Eric, and he explained some things to me about the field and the team, and it's a pretty good fit.
Well, I live in Florida, and I know like a lot of the private schools, like Trinity Christian. I'm sure you've heard of them. They kind of on that national scale of scheduling. I mean, I know this is probably too far down the road, but do you see where Norcross may become something like that? I think Miller School has kind of done that as well, where they go travel all around the country and play different schools.
So. Being my first year, the few things that really shocked me was when I was at Byrd, we were one of the better programs around, and spring break, they were mine. They were there. We might have practiced twice a day, practice, go eat lunch, practice, play a game the next day. Well, Norcross, they all go on a trip. And I was dumbfounded. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're going to practice for a week and then everybody's going to be gone? So I took that last September when everybody told me that. I said, all right, this year it's fine, but do not plan any trips for next year. So we're trying to plan a trip to IMG. I have buddies who coach at IMG, and we're not going to go play their national team. I mean, we can't compete with them, but they have 10 high school teams. We can go play with a few of them. I know a bunch of other coaches in that area that we're going to try to play 3 or 4 games over spring break. So, we're not going to go like Billy last year went and played Tampa Jesuit and Stoneman Douglas. We don't have the guys to do that. I don't have enough guys to do that. And I'm not going down there and get my brains beat out, So I'm going to go play teams that we can sort of compete with and try to get better and, see what happens.
You're a private school, but like, have you seen anything, had to deal with anything as far as like kids, like, leaving or something like that, want to play for different schools or anything? I don't know if it's on the high school level at all, but like, that the portal in college, but is there anything like that in high school at all that you have to face or anything like that? Or is it re-recruiting your own players?
Well, I've been there 1 year. Okay. I had a couple kids that left before I got the job because they wanted to get out of the private school mode. I had a couple kids that didn't want to play just because they wanted to concentrate on another sport. So it put us in a bind a little bit, but then they saw the success we had. And after a few weeks, they wanted to come out. Well, I'm not letting them. No, you didn't want to play. We're going to deal with what we got. I have kids that are enrolled in Norcross for the fall. Okay. I have some kids that are inquiring about how do I get over here to play for you. So, I don't know that we're going to get it to the point where Billy's at, but, but we are going to, I'm going to try to get the best players I can get. I'm going to develop the ones that I have there, and I'm going to try to get the best players I can get. We can't actually recruit. I can't talk to a kid unless they have talked to our admissions people and got that process started. That's the way it is at this level. So, once they talk to admissions people, I'm all over them. I'll invite them in. I'll show them around. I'll explain what my background. This is how I coach. This is what I do. These are the guys I've coached. So, we'll see how that goes. It may be a 1 more year thing. It may be 5 more years. Who knows? We'll see. We'll play it a year at a time.
I did want to hit on something you mentioned earlier. You talked about being in Omaha for years and years and years. For someone who's never been there, like myself, what is it like being there? I mean, you've probably been in Rosenblatt, and also I think what's a new one called the TD Ameritrade. Is that what it is?
Charles Schwab now.
Charles Schwab.
I never went to a game at Rosenblatt.
Okay.
But I have been by Rosenblatt before they tore it down. But I've been to Charles Schwab many times. And if you're a baseball person, I would tell anybody out there, you need to go see what it's like.
Any memorable games that you have been to that stick out to you?
Yeah, Virginia won a national championship. I'm a Virginia fan. And my buddies were with me. One of them coached at Pitt. One of them played at Florida State. And one of them played in the big leagues. And they tried to get me to jump the wall and dogpile. But I had to fly out the next day. I said, who's going to bail me out of jail? I said, I'll just sit here and enjoy it as a Virginia fan. But there's been some great games. I mean, I remember sitting there with my guy who played in the big leagues. We're there. Virginia beat TCU 1 year in like 15 innings. And it was late. And we had to be on the field for stretch at 7 o'clock in this morning with our camp. But he said, I'm going to stay here. He said, I played in the big leagues and I did not see arms back. He's a little bit younger than I am. Like, is coming out of each of those bullpens every time they bring somebody out. Everybody was 96, 97, 98. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think Virginia won in 15 innings. That was the year TCU had the lefty that played in the College World Series, got drafted, and played in the World Series later in the year. So
it might be a little off topic, but I mean, you just mentioned it about UVA baseball. Any thoughts on O'Connor going down to Mississippi State? I think.
Yeah, it was sort of a surprise to me because I had heard him a few years ago say that my family loves it here in Charlottesville. And he said, if I left, they would probably stay here. But I understand. I mean, when there's a time for a change, when you need to go to a different place. And, I understand a lot of it had to do with the amount of scholarships and amount of NIL money and stuff like that. And that's the way the nature of the business right now. You have to have those things to be able to compete at that level. So, but, I think Pollard's going to be good. He's bringing some guys with him. So it's basically Virginia guys are moving to Mississippi State, Duke guys are moving to Virginia.
So not to rub salt in the wound whatsoever, but do you think that the, preseason number one and then not making the NCAA tournament, which was a total shock to me because I didn't realize till after we done got to basically the regional finals that Virginia wasn't even playing. So, I mean, do you think
Yeah.
that has anything to do with him going? But I don't believe Mississippi State made the tournament either, did they?
No, they didn't make it either. No, I
So,
don't think so. I think it's more the scholarships and money that's put into the program and things like that. I mean, Mississippi State, that's a great tradition of baseball. They have a beautiful stadium, and they have a lot of alumni that are going to put money into that program. And Virginia has that too, but not at the level Mississippi State has, I don't think.
While we're talking about the Cultural Series, do you think Coastal Carolina can take out either as LSU or Arkansas? I'm not sure who's winning tonight, but
Who knows? They did it a few years ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's a very good program. I mean, everybody's like, well, it's his first year. Well, he's been there a long time. He's been there with Gilmore for a long time. So wasn't like a big change, I don't think. But,
regardless of what these other two guys say, I'm pulling for Coastal Carolina to win. Even though they have been talking about Florida and solely going off at Coastal, I'm still pulling for the guys.
Yeah.
That was a classless act that he pulled the other week. I'm gonna tell you what, y'all. I mean, he didn't have to do that to those guys. That's but hey, maybe that's the fire that Coastal needed to get to where they're at. I mean,
That's right.
I like that.
They can write him back and tell him thank you after the series is over.
Yeah.
Well, my last question, I don't want to hold you over too long. What's the best player or talent that you come across as a scout or as a coach?
Oh, Lordy. Well, like I said before, I wrote this list of all these people, and I have guys that played for me in the Commonwealth Games that are in the big leagues right now. I mean, I have guys that have played in the big leagues for 15 years, Brandon Inge. But I would say all the years I've done that and scouting, I mean, I coached in Wrigley Field in 19 in the Under Armour All-American Games. So on my team was Dylan Cruz, James Woods, Jared Jones with the Pirates who got hurt. And the other team had Colby Mayo, who's in the big leagues. I mean, there was a bunch of good players. But I would have to say, in all my years, the best high school baseball player I've ever seen in person was B.J. Upton.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen a lot. I saw Justin in the Commonwealth Games. I saw Verlander. I saw David Wright, Michael Kadire. Russell Wilson played in the Commonwealth Games. He was a great baseball player. But as a high school player, B.J. Upton, I thought was the best player that I've seen. I mean,
was it Green Run?
B.J. went to, I think he finished at Greenbrier Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. And Justin went to Hickory, I believe. Dave Wright went to Hickory, I know. I can't remember which one, but he was pretty good. Justin was pretty good too, but BJ was really, really, really good. Really good.
Greg, I'm gonna piggyback off your question here. Anyone not named Greg Doss, best player you ever played against or played with on any level? I don't care if it was Little League.
That's a tough question. I never thought about that. Well, I almost had a chance to play against Bo Jackson in college.
Wow.
Well, we got rained out. Because back then, Division I's would play NAIA schools, Division II schools. That is a very tough question. I'd have to think on that one a little bit. Played with or played against?
Yeah. You mentioned NAIA Carson Newman. I had an opportunity before I ripped up a knee that, oh my goodness, I can't even think. South Carolina Aiken,
Okay.
NAIA.
USC Aiken, yeah.
It kind of scared me a little bit because the very, very first question the guy asked me is, what do you drive and what kind of what do you want to live on or off campus? And I'm like, I like this kind of NAIA kind of thing because it didn't fall under NCAA regulations. So
a little bit different rules.
I didn't know how to actually react to that when he first answered that. But anyway, it never panned out. But I'll let you think on that thing one day, and maybe next time we have you back on, Rodney, you'll have an answer to that question. I mean, that's a lot of years to go back. I think about that all the time.
That's a long way to go back. It's a long way. But well, and a lot of them, you think, well, I think he was on that team, so I'd have to go back and do some research. But dang, I mean, when I played at Carson Newman, Tennessee Wesleyan was very, very good, and they had a couple guys that pitched in the big leagues that I may have been on the same field as. When I first went to Carson Newman, I was a pitcher and I played a position. But after they saw me hit a while, they just said, "Hey, just go to the bullpen and sit down there. You don't need to hit anymore." But dang, I'd have to really think about that. I'd have to really think about it.
Did you
But
ever
going back
play?
to the NAIA thing, they do have. So Garrick, that was his first visit, was to an NAIA school in South Carolina, and they said, "Bring your stuff. You can practice with us." And I'm like, that has got to be against the rules. I know it is NCAA, but it was not there.
Yep,
It was not.
exactly.
I said, "You got to be kidding me." They said, "Yeah, we can bring people in and do whatever we want." I won't
Yeah,
mention the school because,
yeah, it was a little scary for me when I first heard about that. So I was just like, I didn't know what was going on. But no, I just kind of think back in the old days and think about stuff like that. And Gregory, and I know y'all remember Furl Edmonds, but
Yep.
I just kind of think about players that you never thought about. Did they play baseball? Well, actually, Furl. He still had, I think he's got, his hands are the same size now that they were as a 12-year-old. And dude, when he held up a bat, it looked like a toothpick. It really did. And I've seen that kid hit home runs like it won't know tomorrow, as far as you could see or couldn't
Huh.
see. So it's kind of crazy. So
How about
yeah,
that?
there ought to be some interesting answers coming out.
Yep. Yep.
What does the summer hold for Rodney, and when does Northcross kind of resume their the workouts and stuff like that?
Well, I'm doing camp this week at Norcross for little kids. I am helping with a 17 and under travel team at the lab, which is an indoor place down here. A couple weeks of that. I start on the world tour at the end of July. So all the Under Armour next series, I'll be going. I'll start out in Los Angeles, then I'll go to Fort Myers, then to Myrtle Beach, then to New Jersey, then to Ohio, then to Hoover, and then I end up mid-September in Goodyear, Arizona. So that'll be the little tour. And then we'll start fall workouts at Norcross Inn. Last year I was gone until October because we used to have teams in the fall classics out there. And when I got back, we started probably mid-October and we went until Thanksgiving because weather was great. And that was, I was trying to get to know some of those guys. And a lot of them at Norcross is a small school. A lot of them play football. A lot of them play soccer. A lot of them play basketball. So there wasn't many kids out there, but the ones that were out there didn't play anything else. I was willing to go out there and do whatever we needed to do. So, and I think this year that we'll have quite a few more because there's a lot of guys that are just baseball guys now. So we'll see. We'll see. But that'll take me up until Christmas time, and then I'll be on the road in Arizona and places there, and then come back, and it'll be time to get going, get ready for spring. So try to stay busy.
Greg, you're muted.
My last question, Rodney, is
Yes.
do you have a place beside, not team, but is Rodney Spradlin listed in the VHSL record book?
I guess they always have the state champions and the coach's name in there, so I guess it's there. But as a player, probably not. Probably not.
Okay. Well, good, because y'all state champion people, I can't stand you, and it makes me sick every time I look at somebody's ring.
Wow. Yeah, I should have said there's only one person on here that doesn't have a state championship ring.
Yeah, if Devin would have been on here, he'd have been another one that has one. So yeah, I'm the only one that doesn't have a state championship ring, but at least my name is in the book for having 9 RBIs in the game. So it took 27 years for it to get in the book, and as soon as it gets in there, I'm in second place.
Gotcha.
Hey, you know what? I should have asked. Your son Garrick.
Yep.
He's at SIU, I believe, still. What's his career look like out in the baseball world as far as strength and conditioning?
Well, he's a strength conditioning. He's getting his master's at Southern Illinois. He was at West Virginia last year as an intern. Then he went to Clemson. After next year, he'll be 26 years old. He'll have 2 years of head strength experience and a master's degree. So he's contemplating, I think he wants to end up in the SEC or the ACC. And if not, I think pro ball with a master's, he would be willing to do that. So maybe he could be a coordinator or something like that. But, he was like me. He played in college. He wanted to play further and just, God gives some people, talent and some people don't. I mean, he was a really good college pitcher, but he wasn't going to play pro ball. And he said, I want to do something to stay in the game. And that's the part he liked, the strength conditioning. And he sort of emphasized, he does everything, but he was a pitcher who had some arm problems and had some torn stuff. So he is very, very adamant about recovery work and stuff like that. So that's probably what he pays the most attention to. And luckily it's SIU. The cool part is he's the strength guy, but they know he pitched in college, so he's the bullpen coach too. So during the game, he goes to the bullpen with the microphone and, making sure guys are ready. And he said it works perfect because when the guy gets pulled out of a game, they come to the bullpen to him, and he can have this guy getting ready, and he can do the recovery work with the other guy. So, he was a little bit – he thought they were as good, if not better, than Murray State. But I said they were good at the right time. I mean, I wouldn't watch this conference tournament. Garrick and them are pretty good. They can swing the bats, but Murray State they did everything right, and they got hot at the right time, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, they had a tough go of it in the College World Series, but they were competitive. It wasn't like they embarrassed themselves. But they've got some pretty good players on that team. It's a pretty good conference. I mean, last year you had Evansville in that conference who almost beat Tennessee, and Indiana State was in the top 15 all year. So their coach left, so a lot of people left from there too. But this is pretty good baseball there. Missouri State, Gary thought was the best team in their conference, and they didn't get to go. So they have a kid that will get drafted here in a few weeks, and they have one next year that might get drafted really, really high. So, pretty good baseball.
Yeah. And I'm sure we can probably ask you 1,000 questions, but we'll let you go and get some rest. Right. You guys got a lot of stuff going on. But Coach Rodney Spradlin there at North Cross High School. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank you, Rodney.
Again. All right.
Thank you again to Coach Rodney Spradlin. Like I said, a great time talking with him, talking some baseball. And we'll have him on again towards the beginning of the season next year. So we want to make sure we follow up with these coaches and just see what they have returning. If anything we can do to help out as far as recruiting. I'm sure Rodney knows everything he needs to know about recruiting and scouting, but anything we can do to help out some of his kids, we'll have him on. So thank you again to Coach Spradlin. In this next one, we have Coach Eric Altizer, fresh off of a state championship run here recently. So give it a listen, and we'll see you soon. All right, so it's District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're back with another special episode here. We're with the head coach of the Auburn Eagles baseball team, Coach Eric Altizer. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Greg. Thanks for having me.
We're a little busy up there in, I think you said Indiana, correct?
Yes, sir. We're in Westfield, Indiana. My son's playing in a travel tournament, so we're up here fighting the heat in between games.
Well, I mean, you just won a state championship just early this month. Did you get any breaks at all from the game of baseball? Or you're always on the road doing something with baseball?
I get a break from coaching, so I get to be dad and just watch during the summer, which is awesome. But when you win the state championship, you want to stay in that mode as long as possible. So we're still trying to ride the high a little bit.
I got to ask you, do you have any rings on from previous state championships? I know you don't have the 25 one yet.
I thought about it, but since we're traveling, I didn't want to get them out on the road, I guess.
Oh, man. I had brought mine just for this occasion because, we've won state championships and, Big Reg hasn't won one before. So we had to bring our rings out. So I had to make sure I get he's shaking his head down there.
I see that.
Well, my first question for all of our guests, I want to know more about your background. If you could tell us how you got into the game of baseball, where you're born and raised, and how you got to Auburn High School to be the head coach there.
So I grew up in a baseball family for sure. My dad was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. I've got an older brother named Sandy, after Sandy Koufax, of course. When I was born, they were going to name me Maury Wills Altizer, but my mom vetoed that decision, and so I just became Eric. But we grew up on baseball. My dad would listen to games in the car, so I learned to listen to Cincinnati games in the car, Joe Nuxall and Marty Brenneman all the time growing up. Went to Auburn High School. The program started in 1981 when I was an 8th grader. It was the first year they had a program. So I think this is the 45th year of the program, and I've probably been in it 30 plus years, either as a coach or a player, JV coach as well. I was an okay player in school, but I was more of a figuring out how things work kind of guy. I had to work hard because I didn't have all the athletic ability. Tried to walk on at Virginia Tech and I mean, this guy named Chuck Hartman that was the coach obviously didn't make great decisions and didn't give me a chance after we tried out. So I realized a little bit later he knew a little bit more about it than I do, and is a pretty good evaluator of talent. So got a job teaching at Shawsville in 1993. Was an assistant coach down there with Billy Wells, who's been my mentor for 30 plus years. He's in the Salem Roanoke Hall of Fame, legendary coach in the Roanoke Valley. Coached with him a year or two. Then I got the basketball job at Shawsville, so I gave up baseball a few years. Came back to Auburn. The job came open in 99, so I was the varsity head coach starting in 1999. I did a stint from 99 to 2008. Took a few years off when my middle son was 10, play and travel, and then took back over in 2016 when it came open when he was a junior. So been there since then. All these championships, we weren't expecting them. I wasn't even looking to get the job, but it came open and I thought, well, I'm going to be at the games. I might as well do that. So that's how I've ended up here.
I guess we know the question, the answer to the question. If is Coach Eric Altizer a better basketball coach or a better baseball coach?
At this point, we're going to go with baseball, but I am proud. I got a couple big wins when I was coaching girls varsity. We beat Allen Cantrell and Floyd a couple times, so I guess I've got that notch on my belt. I'm sure the record's like 2-15 against him, but we got a couple, and then I also beat Rick Cormody at Radford when we were doing boys. So, I was at Shawsville then, and I'd taken over in the middle of the year. We were on a 40-some game losing streak at Shawsville, but somehow the first district game that year we beat Radford. I'm sure I've got the paper still where we were 1-0 and Radford was 0-1, and we were at the top of the district for like 10 days. So
I did want to mention just some career statistics here. Like we said, you're in your second stint there. I think 303 wins overall.
Yes, we got 300 in the region final this year.
Nice.
Yeah, but 303 was really nice. Yeah,
there we go. Ended on the state championship. I like that. 4 state championships now. 3-time state coach of the year. I think 2022 Roanoke Salem Hall of Fame inductee for baseball. Yeah, I mean, it's been an unbelievable career there. I mean, talking about this year's team, you guys won a state championship. You go 26, I think 1-1. Was that first game an actual real game? I was looking at that. I thought it might have been a scrimmage against.
Yeah, I don't know where that one came from. I think it was a scrimmage with Floyd or Carroll. Somebody probably didn't close game changer up or something, and it ended up showing up as a tie. So yeah, 26-1 for the year. It was an incredible season, but we expected to be competing toward the end of the year. This year we had 9 returning starters, 7 seniors and 2 juniors. Those 9 guys have been on varsity together for 3 years. And again, we had 6 seniors that have played since they were freshmen. They've been in the Final Four every year that they've played. So we had high expectations, but I tell guys all the time, and parents or whoever, that, our goal is to get to the state tournament. When you get to the state tournament, anything can happen. I mean, it comes down to matchups. It comes down to who gets the breaks. And we've definitely gotten our share of breaks over the years. The last couple of years, they probably went against us a little bit. Just, again, we faced 3 years ago, kid from Lebanon who's best pitcher going to a college in Maryland. This year he hit us in the state final. Last year we faced Kevin Hayes from Rappahannock, who is going to school in Tidewater, I think, or the apprentice school. I can't remember the exact name of it, but he's going there. He shut us out last year. At the beginning meeting of the year, we had up on our slideshow, that's the guy we were going to have to beat, probably, if things went the way everybody thought they might. And it came down to that. It was a great state semifinal game against him, but our guys really dug deep and figured out a way. I mean, you get to this point, you just got to find a way to get a good at bat, find a break, and our guys did that the last week of the season. We had 3 walk-off wins technically in the last week of the season, so it was exciting for sure.
Coach, I'm gonna try to sneak one in while and I apologize once again about my connection, but I just kind of look back in the old days, and I guess Gregory can attest to this too, playing in 2009 when it was only 3 classes, single A, double A, triple A. do you like the new format with the 6A, and kind of dividing each division up? And I kind of like it myself because I think it gives a lot more exposure to kids. And in my opinion, baseball has always been, my favorite sport. But at the same time, I think it's in a backseat to basketball and baseball to football when it comes to exposure and to recruiting.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's probably been the third sport for sure. Your question about the 6A and 3A, we have to be honest that's why we've had success is when they went to 6A. I mean, we were a good school when there were just 1, 2, and 3A, and we were competitive. We were in a tough district then in the Three Rivers with Radford and Glenver and Giles, and we were proud of the fact my first stint we went to the region several times in those years. Glenver always went. I mean, Glenver won the district forever. So there were only 2 teams out of each district that went to region at that point. But when they split to 6A, that really helped our school. That's one of the huge reasons our school has been so successful the past 10 years. I think our school's won 47 state championships in the last 10 years. And a huge part of that is obviously it's gone from 1A, our 3A to 6A. But we also we got a new school. Our volleyball program was super successful, and everybody kind of started looking to Sherry Milirons and what she'd done with that program. I don't know how many they've won now. They've won 8, 9, 10 state championships. But she really set the bar for everybody else. And we've had good coaches coming through Auburn, but we've had some things go our way. But without a doubt, it gives smaller schools a little bit more recognition than they've had in the past. And we've had a great community. We've had great guys come through in the last 6, 7, 8 years to really solidify our program.
Coach, I want to go back to the season, early in the season, or I guess kind of midway. The lone loss you had this year was that crazy 20-15 loss to Blacksburg. I think you said you threw like 7 pitches that game. What was it about that game? I know you said your pitching was pretty much dominant all year, but what was it about the game? And you said you were proud of them for fighting back. How'd that game go?
Yeah. So you get in situations during the season. I mean, again, we expect at the end of the year we're going to be in region tournaments and things like that, but you've got to get to that point and you've got to figure out things about your team. And we also so Blacksburg's non-district for us. We're getting ready to head into a district game, 2 district games later that week. We just lost Brody Hensel on the mound, who was a stud for us last year, 11-1. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to manage that. So we did start Josh Givens that game. Blacksburg's pretty good. They got a kid going to Longwood, a kid going to catcher going to Ferrum. They got Coach Chef's son, who's a junior, who is just a dynamic player. So the first inning, we hung a curveball to Bryce Abbott going to Longwood. So we were down 3-0 pretty quick. So Josh got knocked out in that first inning. At that point, we had to manage our staff to win some district games later that week. So we threw some guys an inning or so here and there, but they couldn't stay in the whole time because we had to have them later. So we did use 7 pitchers. That night, I got a little bit of a limp because I've thrown lots of pitches in my day. So I'm limping at home, and my wife goes, "Well, I know why you're limping today." She goes, "You had so many trips to the mound, your leg's bound to be killing you." My wife, who's usually not that funny, but that was a pretty good one on her part. But what I was really proud about in that game is we scored 15 runs against those guys, and they used their best pitchers. We really, really battled. I mean, it's probably a rivalry game for us right now just because we've done really well in single A games. So having a team in the county who's really good, Blacksburg, I think, was 16-4 this year. So we really battled. We had guys step up and have just huge offensive games. And we knew we weren't going to see many pitchers better than what we saw that day. So I was really, really proud of the resiliency in that game. We knew pitching-wise we were at a little bit of a deficit that day, but really proud of the way the guys stepped up. And those 20 runs, I look back, we gave up 27 runs in 2024 total. So giving up 20 runs that day was a little bit different. And it was wild sitting on the bench watching all that happen, for sure.
How much did that loss, and then you had some close games against I think Grayson County.
Yeah.
How did those prepare you for that Chilhowie game? We won 2-1, and we'll get to that Rappahannock game in a second. But how much did those prepare you for the postseason?
Yeah, guys just knew, and guys didn't have any quit in them, and they knew. And again, these guys have been around for a long time. It seems like so. We've been behind before. We're not behind a lot during the regular season, but we've been behind against some good teams, and they just kept battling. I think our strength this year for us is surely depth of lineup. We've got so many guys with so much experience that they knew we never give in a bad way. We're a little bit old school in that we're not. I mean, we preach don't strike out. We're not in the modern day major leagues where we're either trying to hit a home run or strike out. I heard one of your all's podcasts where I may be asking Eric Owens about bat launch angle and all that stuff. I mean, when I take my son places and I got to read that on the screens, I look at it and say, well, that's great. But if you don't hit the ball, it doesn't matter what your launch angle is. So we've got guys who battled. I think we talked about, or at least said, the at-bats that lead up to the game-winning hit are the huge at-bats because guys got to be on base in those situations. And we had guys from top to bottom of our order who just battled through at bats. And we talk about fouling off pitches and building pitch counts on the other pitches because of the pitch counts in our VHSL level. So the Blacksburg game and the Grayson game was a district tournament final. It doesn't have any effect on seeding or anything else. Somebody gets to be district champion. Somebody's the runner up, but we were down 4-3, I think, in the bottom of the seventh. We don't like losing to teams in the district. Grayson's a very talented team, and they had us. I mean, they had us with 4-3. First two guys made outs right away, so we're thinking, not looking good. And we had a guy get hit by a pitch, and then had a guy beat out an infield ground ball. Got him to second and third on a steal, and then we got a key hit. And that, to me, really set the tone for the postseason because we were down to our last strike a couple times. And when we played later in the season, played Chilhowie, we had one of our coaches say after we broke the huddle before the seventh inning, he said, hey, we've done this before. We've been here before. You all know how to handle it. And I think the experience of the guys we've had coming back was huge in the postseason.
I want to bring up that the Rappahannock game there in the state semifinals. So you had last year, you guys played them in state semifinals. You lost 3-0, and I think according to your notes, you guys are down 2-0 going into the bottom of the seventh. Was there a thought there like, hey, here we go again, Rappahannock state semifinals? Oh no.
I'm sure that thought went through some people's heads, but we really, again, the kid who pitched for Rappahannock is a stud. In our postseason this year, we faced, and Chilhowie was last year's state player of the year, Dawson Toole. Hayes could have been this year's player of the year. I mean, he was basically the runner-up because our guy got it. And then in the final, we saw a kid, freshman, who's probably going to be the player of the year in the next year or two. So we didn't have an easy road in the state tournament. But our goal going into Rappahannock was to build up the guy's pitch count as early as we could. I mean, our goal was to get him 20-some pitches in the first inning. We were fake bunting, taking pitches in the first inning until we got a strike. And again, we just battled our butt off in the first inning. I think he threw 23 or 25 pitches in the first inning. And while we didn't get to him then, he had to come out in that seventh inning. I think after we got a double and strikeout and a double. So I think after the second double, he had to come out. And their other guys aren't bad, but they're not Kevin or Caden Hayes. So Matthew, I think, got a leadoff double, took a strike. He hit one to the wall. You probably haven't watched the video of that game. I'm a pretty calm dude most of the time, but there were several calls in that game that just got reversed. We just didn't think they were bad calls. They were in our favor, and then they somehow got reversed. I talked more to the umps that day than I've talked in 19, 20 years. And again, I'm not yelling at anybody. We're just discussing what happened. So it was a very emotional game from top to bottom. So we got the double. The next guy, I think, struck out. And then the key hit for us was Graham Alley, who hitting a little over 300, doubled to the fence. And I think in my notes I put double/triple. So he doubled down the right field line, hit, bounced up somewhere. So he ended up on third. Their coach came out and said, hey, it hit the net. So this was the third time the coach had been out. So they ended up reversing that back to a double, which was probably the right call, but no ump saw it. So the first base ump said, I was watching fair or foul. I pointed fair. I said, okay, that's great. The home plate guy says, well, I didn't see it. I said, okay, that's great, but we're putting him back on second. I said, so somebody's got to explain to me, how are we doing that if nobody saw it? And they didn't ask the second, third base ump. And I asked them later, they got in the conversation. They go, Coach, we're going to change it. He should have thrown his hands up. I said, did you see it? No, I didn't see it. Somehow we ended up on second. So I think after that, they had to change pitchers. We got another strikeout, battled for a walk. And then Jared Laverne, who's been, I think he's second all time in hits in VHSL history, going to Concord. Just a wonderful, wonderful kid. Battled, got a 2-hopper up the middle single to tie the game, send it to extra innings, and then we got another huge hit out of the bottom of our lineup in extra innings.
Was that after that Rappahannock win? I mean, was there a sense of relief, and then you guys go play Fort Chiswell and just say, hey, we made it to state championship. Let's go get this thing, and you guys win 10-0. Did it seem easy that day, or it seemed easier to you guys?
Beforehand, it definitely didn't seem like it was going to be easier, right? I mean, Fort Chiswell had an emotional game right before we did to get to the final. Again, I think our experience played a huge part in that moment because it was an emotional game against Rappahannock. I mean, we knew all year that was going to be the team that had to be beat by somebody because they were defending state champions. They had most everybody back. So we knew that was going to be a tough game. So it was definitely emotional. I mean, we had a game tying hit in the 7th. We had a walk-off hit in the 8th. We got people running around, water flying everywhere. But we talked to our kids afterwards, enjoy this for an hour this time. And they also moved the state championship game from 11 to 9 the next morning, which probably was a help because we didn't have as much time to think about it. We just had to go play as quick as we could the next day. But Fort Chiswell had the same emotion. So I think it was really a benefit to us that we had 9 guys that had been there for 3 or 4 years. They were really focused on what their goal was. I mean, the seniors on that team, their goal all year was to win that state championship. And I know everybody's is, but they'd been there 3 times and hadn't won it. So they were really focused on what needed to be done. So they got over it quick and really came to play the next morning.
Hey, Coach, you brought up something very important I just heard there. So they changed the time on you the next day. How much does that affect your ability to get your team ready? I mean, how much does that affect your, the next game or the next day when they change the time up on you?
Yeah, so you asked about Fort Chiswell. It was a true blessing that we played Fort Chiswell because we had obviously had scouting reports on them already. If we'd had to play Northumberland, it would have been more stressful just because we'd have been watching game tape and all that kind of stuff all night trying to figure out anything we could about Northumberland. So we'd played Fort Chiswell 3 or 4 times already. We've played them 15 times in the last 3 or 4 years because they are really good. And so it really helped in that aspect that we didn't have to redo any scouting reports. The change of time just made it really tough to get up at 5 o'clock the next morning, get on a bus, try to come down and hit batting practice at 7:30. Fort Chiswell actually didn't get there in time to take infield outfield.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they hit batting practice at their facility, but in the state tournament, you take infield outfield so early because they're going to redo the field after infield outfield. Like infield was like at 8:10 for them, and they hadn't got there yet. So, and they didn't change the game time or anything like that. So I don't know how much effect that really had on the game, but it was definitely early.
Coach, don't let him fool you. He's only asking for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's because he's trying to defend Kevin Sullivan down in Florida for him acting up against Coastal in the regional playoffs and in the NCAA playoffs. So
Yeah.
that's all he's asking for. He's trying to find out just how complex you are versus his own favorite coach down there playing baseball. So
Florida, his team.
Oh yeah, you can't say nothing bad against Florida. You cannot say one thing bad. But look, while I got a decent signal, I wanted to ask you, going back to some of those things we said, and look, I think me and you could coach together because first and foremost, you would make sure we had 9 players on our roster at least, because I couldn't promise that. That's what my boys keep asking me. Why didn't you coach? Why didn't you coach? I don't know if I could have kept a full roster. Second of all, you probably could have kept me in the game because, I think fire and ice actually go together. So I just wanted to say that. But, going back to a couple of things you said earlier about the talk with Eric and stuff like that, I despise, and I've said this many times, I despise watching an MLB game where as soon as guy hits a home run, the first thing they throw up is a graphic, launch angle, exit velocity, blah, 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 and then I've seen a lot of kids here lately get scholarships based on their spin rate. Never even gets seen, but the spin rate is texted to somebody and, oh man, yeah, we got to get this kid in here, stuff like that. It just, I'm kind of in your school. I feel like we're old school, whereas if a kid can play baseball, he can play baseball.
Yep.
And, can he hit the ball? I've seen some of the worst, however you want to call them. I've seen some of the worst pitch hitters in my life. I've seen kids such as Tim Garland, who played at GW, who basically you could throw one a half inch off the ground or maybe even bounce it to the plate, and this kid could hit the ball at the ballpark. And, he made it into the minors, and I've just seen a lot of those kids. And, in today's game, they could be major leaguers now. And I just wonder where our game is headed to.
Yeah. So Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was famous for the bad ball hitting. I don't know what his exit velocity and all that was, but that guy could hit anything that got thrown. It drives me crazy with people talking about, well, this pitcher, he's really good because he throws 92. If he throws 30% strikes, it doesn't matter how fast you throw it when you throw ball 4, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. So it definitely drives me crazy. And I grew up a math stat guy. I mean, I love statistics. I don't know if I hate analytics. I probably hate analytics. So a guy who is math and stats all the time, we don't use that stuff. I mean, I do an offensive analysis of guys who can get on base. What's your on base percentage? What's your walk to strikeout ratio? Because you got to put the ball in play. If you're striking out 70% of the time, you're not doing very much for us. Again, I don't care what your exit velocity is. We need you on base. I mean, we've talked about with people about bunts and stuff like that. We don't bunt a ton, but we bunt when it's necessary, and we squeeze bunt sometimes. And you can't rely on guys just to hit it 400 feet, especially in high school, especially at the 1A level. I mean, we don't have guys that are hitting balls out all day long. I mean, I don't know what we hit, 5 or 6 or 7 home runs this year. And that's probably a big number for us. So I am totally with you on, I'm not a launch angle guy. And all these guys now play travel ball, and that's great. I want them to get experience. But I hate the ones that just go into a batting cage. They got the little thing sitting up there, and all they do is swing and turn and look at the monitor to see what their exit velocity was and what their launch angle was. And there's somebody who doesn't know anything sitting there telling them, well, you need to get your launch angle 2 degrees more or whatever. Hit the ball. I mean, hit the ball is what I want you to do. So
I think about people, and I had an actual opportunity to run into each.
Bad signal. Well, I want to bring up. Go ahead and ask a question until he gets some more signal. But your senior class, I mean, they go 92-12. I think, if according to Max Preps, that's correct. Yeah. Played in state semifinal, state title loss, another state semifinal, and state championship. I believe 4 of the 6 placed in the first and second team all state. You had the player of the year this year as well, along with you being coach of the year. But what has the senior class meant to Auburn High School the last few years?
Yeah. I mean, they just set a tremendous legacy, and those guys have benefited from the guys who came previously. The 2022 senior class, so these guys' freshman year, we had 3 seniors coming back, and they'd won a state championship before, but we'd been, again, decimated by graduation with that group. But those 3 seniors really took these freshmen under their wing and taught them how we do things. And those 3 guys, one of them's a freshman at Radford, or redshirt freshman at Radford. He's a catcher. He had a great year. I mean, he went in and he did a prep year, redshirted one year, and then he was a redshirt freshman this year and had a great freshman season there. Tyler Spare, and one of the other guys, and you all I think are a little bit more basketball, Ethan Millirons, who was a big player at Auburn. He wasn't a baseball player, but he was a leader and he was a champion and he was a worker. And he really showed these guys how to be unselfish because he didn't play a ton. He played a lot of defensive outfield, but that kid really helped mold these guys into who they've become over the years. And they had to, because those guys were playing as freshmen and they had to teach them or get them indoctrinated in how we do things as quick as possible. And we had 6 or 7 losses that year, but they were learning experiences for sure. And we got to the point, I mean, that year, I don't know about best coaching jobs and all that kind of stuff, but we definitely exceeded our expectations that year, getting to the state semifinals. And I remember walking off the field that day thinking, you know, guys, I'm not sure we thought we were going to get here, but I think we were the better team that day that we lost. And that's when I kind of started to really realize, you know, we've got a pretty solid program. We've done things right. That we could turn over a year like that and get to the state semifinals with a bunch of freshmen. Really, I thought was a tribute to our program and where we'd gotten to at that point, that, you know, we're just doing things the right way from top to bottom, I feel like.
I want Big Ray. Big Ray, you have your signal now?
So, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I didn't know. They must not have towers around Southfield. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I thought I was getting closer, and then I thought it'd be here. No, what I was saying was a few moments ago was me and Coach probably could have run into each other back in the mid to late 80s, because I had a chance to walk on at Virginia Tech as well. And that was back in Trey McCoy's days that they had brought in. And I think McCall actually was a number 1 draft pick in the MLB draft in 85, I believe it was. That's when I graduated. But, you know, I was thinking, you know, along those lines of analytics and stuff like that. You know, I don't think Chuck Hartman had an analytics book sitting on the bench beside him. And, you know, Frosty Owens over at Halifax County, who was, you know, another legendary coach. And I'll never be able to think of this other guy's name, and I'm sure you might be able to, but down at Wise, who won a bunch of state championships in Class A back in the late 70s, 80s. I can never remember his name, but I got a chance to play for him. That's him, Coach Shoup. I played for him at the All-Star game in Lynchburg my senior year. So, you know, that guy, he win 400 games or so? Or,
yeah,
you know, I just a ton. I mean, you just don't see those books sitting around. And then I go back to, you know, just a couple of years ago, watching the World Series and this supposed bullpen game that the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers had. And me and Gregory have a special, you know, endowment to Joe Manaply, since we, you know, coached and played with him back in Little League. And, you know, I sit there and I watch that game and I go, hey, Joe just went 1, 2, 3 first inning, and Joe doesn't come back out on the mound because of analytics. And it just, it's insane to me. It just, I just don't, you know, I hate to harp on it, but it's just not my type of game anymore. And you know, I used to love to see the guy with the dirty uniform. That way, you knew he was the guy that could get down and dirty and play baseball. And you know, you just don't see that gritty guy anymore. And you know, when you do, it's basically on the high school level. You just don't see it, you know, on a top echelon anymore. And it kind of disturbs me a little bit, especially with the money that these guys are making.
So 85, when you graduated, was that from Tech or was that from high school?
That was high school. Yeah. I had a chance to walk on at Tech for Coach Hartman. And I forget what Chip's last name, but Chip was his assistant coach up there. And I think Chip wound up going down to not Ferrum, but down in Carolina next to Pembroke, and I can't remember what school it was. But hey, I wound up striking out 3 times in the high school all-star game. And
I heard I did hear that story on one of your other podcasts.
yeah,
And
Abe Knapp
Abe
walks up.
Knapp.
Yeah, he walks up in the parking lot after the game, and I'm down in the dumps, head dragging across the tarmac, and he walks up to me and says, "Hey, I need you at Ferrum." I said, "What are you talking about? I just struck out 3 times." He goes, "Oh, I love your bat speed. We can correct that." I was like, "Okay, hey, I'll look at." So it's just wild how things, work out that way.
So you did go to Ferrum?
No, I had torn the
Oh,
ACL,
that's
did not even know it, and couldn't figure out why I was limping around, and couldn't get things back together. Stayed in a knee brace and immobilizer for half a summer. And I think that was probably the reason why I struck out 3 times at the All-Star game. But
right.
I didn't have surgery till a year later, and it was just too late. Averett didn't have a program at that time, so
Yeah.
I just wound up staying in town and going to Averett. So, I got a chance to live my state championships through my boys. So, of course he throws that ring. He throws that ring in my face all the time. So,
yeah. So Ferrum's not too far from us, and I don't know that I was following them when Billy Wagner and Eric Owens and Randy Lawrence from Christiansburg High School, I think, was there about the same time. And then, of course, Jack Turner, who ended up coaching football back at Auburn for a while, was playing football there. So I've heard a lot of Ferrum stories, especially about those guys. I think they had some good times up there in between games too.
absolutely. And I don't know if you remember Bob Scarborough or Chitwood that went up there to Ferrum, but they were good guys. I ran into them at the All-Star game as well. But it just used to be some really good ball players out there. And, I know, I used to have a certain feeling about travel ball and this kind of thing. And, I do feel like travel ball is taken away from our league programs. And I think that's hurt, especially teams like George Washington High School, where Michael can even put a team on the field nowadays hardly without struggling and going through the act of Congress to get things. But it's just the nature of the beast now, and it's a lot of money involved. But at the same time, I just hate to see that the programs are disappearing from our towns and cities, and it's just going to what people think is going to get them to the next level, and it just doesn't happen all the time. I wish we could put a little bit more faith in the other programs too.
Right. I think there's more kids too doing the specialization, so numbers are just going down in so many high school sports. I mean, I hope high school sports can survive, period. We have, like I say, we've got 4 guys coming back next year. We don't have anybody playing baseball in our junior class in our whole school. I mean, so we're going to go from seniors, nobody, and then a bunch of sophomores next year. But I mean, it just amazes me that a school doesn't have anybody in a class participating in sports.
Well, Coach, I got to tell you this too, and we interviewed Billy Pope back in the wintertime for basketball over at Northside, and I know his career is historic, and he's had a long run there at the school, and I know yours is the same way. And I just got to, I told him that night, and I'll tell you right now, I can appreciate, you guys sticking with the public school system and keeping up with it and making it happen and keeping these kids in high school and, not necessarily not allowing them, but making it interesting enough and fun enough for those guys to stay at your high school in the public system versus, taking off and going to, like I said, a special school, to some academy or something to that effect. So my hat's off to you for making that happen.
Thank you. I've told people there's not going to be many career coaches left. I mean, you're not going to see many guys coach 15, 20, 25 years anymore at high schools, I don't believe, for various reasons. But it's just it's a tough draw to get somebody. I mean, probably like Coach Pope. I mean, I don't know where he grew up, if he grew up at Northside and all that, but I mean, I'm here because of the community. I mean, this is where I grew up. It's where I'm, born and raised my kids and all that kind of thing. I'm never looked to go anywhere else. but it's just because I just love the game. I mean, I love the game, and it gave me a chance to stay in the game, to be coaching, and I enjoyed coaching and in stats and all that kind of stuff. But there was just nowhere else I wanted to go, and I was going to stick with it as long as I can, which isn't going to be much longer. But I've enjoyed the ride. I think this is 36 years coaching something. And a lot of those years were 2 or 3 sports. I mean, you don't have many guys doing that anymore either. I mean, we coach girls basketball, boys basketball, and baseball. And when I was young, doing that year round, I could do that. I can't do that anymore. But I've enjoyed it for sure.
Well, it says a bunch about you. And, a lot of schools now are just, I know you got to supposedly have a teaching certificate or what have you, but a lot of these schools are going outside now and finding people that don't even have ties to the high schools and to the areas and stuff like that. And that's kind of disturbing to me, but just because I think some of these kids are looking, they need to be taught that history. I mean, talking about Chatham, talking about Auburn, talking about Wise, talking about GW, talking about Halifax. I mean, there's a lot of history behind a lot of these programs, and these kids need to know that. It's just not, hey, what happened in 25 or what's going to happen next year. I mean, there's a lot behind it, and these guys should be proud of this stuff.
Yep, I totally agree. And yeah, I mean, there's not too many people that are loyal. I don't know about loyal to their community, but just like you say, they want to keep the traditions going and things like that. And I mean, I'm sure with your kids too, you tell them some of the stories and they'll start rolling their eyes and all that too. But I do think they appreciate, like our field, the Auburn community's obviously changed a ton over the years, and the baseball field's still in the same place it was when I played in 1982 as a freshman. When we fouled the ball off in 1982, we had to crawl under a barbed wire fence into a cornfield and get the ball. Now it's in the back of somebody's house who's got a fenced-in yard, and they won't let us in because their dog is going to get something. So they don't understand when I'm telling them those stories. Hey, this is what it was like. And, oh, yeah, this, that, and the other. I mean, our first year in our program, we only had wood bats because that's all our school could afford at that point. And, I mean, these guys now, they can't believe that's even true. They think I'm lying about most of the stories I tell them. So, but I agree. I think the history and where it all came from is important. And I do think our guys the last several years really appreciate the guys who came before them. One cool story for me. So we won our first one in 2017 down at Radford, and Matthew, who's on the team now, his travel team, I mean, they were 9 or 10 years old, had a local tournament, but they came to the championship game at Radford in between games with their uniforms on. So we've got that picture of those guys standing there. And I know there were parents that day who said after the game, oh, maybe these guys will be the next guys to win one. And it's a really cool picture. There's 6 guys on that team who did come back to win one this year. There's also a guy on that team who's going to probably win the Masters, Jake Albert. Y'all
Wow.
Think about that. He transferred to Blacksburg in middle school. I think he won the Blacksburg, the state tournament 3 times in golf. He's won like the junior U.S. Open. He's going to Auburn College, Auburn University next year on a golf scholarship. Kid had the best hands on the team. I mean, he could have hit 600. He had the best hands on our team, on that travel team at the time. And there's another kid on that team who's going to Cal Berkeley as a swimmer, who's in the U.S. trials, I think. So
Wow.
It was an incredible group
That's
of
amazing.
kids. Yeah, it is amazing. But it's a really cool picture to see those kids who were there in 2017 come back 8-9 years later and win a state championship.
All right, I'm gonna challenge Gregory and you. Maybe are you teaching? Are you teaching as well, Coach?
I retired. I taught my 30 years. I've been retired for 3 years.
Well, I think the next paper that needs to be written in school, college or high school, one or the other, we need to have a paper written about the wooden bat, where it's originated from, the old, and I know Coach is gonna know this, Gregory, you might not, the bomb bat. I mean, those things were steel bats. You could actually crack at some point in time after you hit a bunch of stuff with it. Yep. And then the old Easton bats. So I don't know if Easton was started. That's where I used to have the old thin blue Easton bat, and that was the one that I started off with. And then they went to the big giant barrel with the green Easton on it, and then it went from there. So But
there
I
wasn't
think
anything
that's
but an Easton bat to choose from back
right.
then.
That's right. So, but I just think that'd be interesting for these people to go back and find a little bit of history in these bats and balls and stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool to hear what everybody could come up with.
Yeah. So, these kids say, well, we need to get this bat. I got no idea. I got no idea what they're talking about. I go, can you hit a ball with it? That's what I need to know. I mean, I'm not going to buy you a $300 bat if you swing and miss. So
I can never pronounce the name of this bat, but there's one going on right now, and these kids are 8, 9, 10 years old using some $400 bat that was orange last year. Last year's model was orange, and this year's ice blue. So it's I don't know how people do it. And then they'll age up and they'll have to change bats. I don't understand all this drop 10, drop 11, drop 3, drop 5. I mean, it just amazes me. It's crazy. So, but I guess that's an evolution process.
Yeah, my poor kids. You go to borrow somebody's bat. I told them I ain't paying $300 for a bat.
Well, Coach, last two for me. I'm not asking you to rank them, but where does this team stack up with in the 4 state championships? And then also, are you already looking forward to next year to defend your state championship? Or are you trying to take some time off to enjoy yourself a little bit?
I'll answer the second one first. I'm definitely going to enjoy this one a little bit till we get through all the ring ceremonies and things like that. And I think we're meeting next Monday to sit down with everybody to design the ring and things like that. So I don't think I took the first one or two for granted, but it's been so long since we won one 4 years ago that we really enjoyed this one. And again, I was just so happy for that group of seniors. I never really wanted to win for the wrong reasons or whatever. I really wanted them to enjoy that moment this time. And I'm so glad they did. So the first question again was,
where does this team stack up between the 4 state championships?
Right. So every team is unique. Every team has their own story. Like the first one, we didn't really know. We just split up to 1A and into smaller groups or whatever. So we didn't really know how far we could really get. We faced a kid who was going to RU that year in the state semifinals, who was throwing 90 miles an hour and struck out some ungodly amount. And we found a way to beat them up at Calfee Park. And then in our state championship game, we had a kid throw a complete game, speaking of old school, a complete game, 70 pitch shutout. I mean, he was just on. And we had, again, breaks go our way that day. So that team obviously going to be very special. My middle son was a catcher on that team, and he was a senior that year. So that made it even extra special for me. Those guys he graduated with, we still get together and play poker sometimes. So there's some guys in that group I still see a lot. 2019 and 2021 were just incredible. Again, each team has its story. Just one other thing I'll share with you. 2021 and this year were almost identical in the state playoffs. We had a walk-off win against Chilhowie both years. Our state semifinal game both years were against the defending state champion who had all their guys back. We were down 2 in the bottom of the 7th in both games. The other one against Riverheads, we were down 3-1. And I'm telling you, our team this year had faith like no team I've ever had. That year we had divine intervention. We're playing at Calfee. Our leadoff guy got on. Our next guy hit a routine fly ball to left field. It rained for 30 seconds like a downpour, and the left fielder dropped the ball. I felt so bad for that guy, but we got 2 more hits, and we ended up winning that game. I mean, it was incredible that it happened the way it did. And then in the state final, we had a 9-0 win that year, 10-0 this year. So those aligned. This year, again, this year is going to be special. I don't have a great memory, so this one's going to be very special for a long time because it's the most recent. But again, next year, we're going to be okay if Matthew and Brody again, the guy who got hurt a little bit during the year, if their arms are good, it's going to be tough to score runs against us. I don't know if we can score runs with the guys we're going to have. I mean, we'll have some work to do early in the year to get things going, but I am looking forward to that next year for sure.
Well, Coach, there's only one bad thing about all this winning and winning state championship. We're going to have to mutate that arm or that hand
to get you more rings. When you run out of the fingers, I mean, what's going to happen then?
Well, I've got 4. If I get 5, I'll probably be retired. So I'll just take care of that, and we'll just stop. If I get 5 next year, we'll stop for sure.
Well, Coach, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. We do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and congratulations on that 4th state championship, Coach.
I appreciate it very much. I enjoyed talking to you guys. Good luck with everything.
And so it's
We
Coach
thank you.
Eric Altizer. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again to Coach Spradlin and Coach Altizer for joining us today. We do appreciate their time. And like I said, these are guys who have a ton of experience and know baseball through and through. So thank you again for them for their time. To all of our District 2 fans, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We have a lot of great stuff out there, tons of interviews you can go through in the past, thoughts of baseball, basketball, and football. Again, go back to our YouTube page. We did a GW Eagles All Access with Coach Mike Pritchett. It's our first time doing something like that, so it's kind of fun to do. But go back and check that out. But yeah, just interact with us, send us some DMs, some messages, if any interviews you want to hear. So, like I said, we have some. I think we have like 3 or 4 that we have lined up that we've completed. So we'll have those out through the next few weeks. I'll go ahead and put out a picture or just a schedule of events here soon, and we want to do some more live stuff as well. So we'll have that going as well, and it's been fun. We're in the dog days of the summer. It can get a little tiresome, where it can be a little tough to get these interviews done, or just kind of sticking with it. But we're almost to football season, and we'll be back up and running again. So thank you guys for listening.